All right, let's talk a little bit about Congress and the courts. Things they can do in order to kind of combat the courts. Little checks and balances they have against whether it's the Supreme Court or federal court. There really is a lot of checks and balances that Congress does possess over whether it's the Supreme Court or whether it's federal judges. The first being salaries. Salaries is something that, again, it's kind of a roundabout way to get at somebody, but I mean, they do control their salaries, so they could increase or decrease those judges' salaries. Obviously, approving federal judges and Supreme Court justices is a check and balance. Now, once obviously they're approved, those judges and justices are there for life. So Congress can make, or more precisely, the Senate makes a call on a judge or a Supreme Court justice, and after that's over, if they do something that's not favorable, then Congress has already kind of made that call. But that is a check and balance. It's just it happens before that. Other things they can do, and there's a lot of other things they can do. Things like change the jurisdiction of the court. There's always new courts popping up. And again, that's also something Congress can do, is they can eliminate a court that's no longer useful, or they can create new courts. If they created a court for military, like a military court, because there just was a growing number of issues that they feel like they could just streamline it into that one kind of courthouse. So they have military courts. So they can create courts, eliminate courts at their discretion. They can also change, like I said, jurisdiction of particular courts. So what kinds of cases you can hear. They can, again, as more need comes up, they might say, like, you're no longer doing this, we're going to specialize it. And that's just what we're going to do. Like child, like in the States, they have like family courts. That used to not be the case, but now, because there's a growing number of custody disputes and that sort of thing, they can change the jurisdiction. So change the jurisdiction of a court, eliminate courts, create new judge positions. It happens a lot. Like, again, they just have a influx of work to be done. They feel like they need more judges to do it. They can create new judge spots. They also can do this in the Supreme Court. Most people don't realize this. The number is 9. However, Congress could change it if they so feel desire to do that. In the 1860s and 70s, I want to say it was late 1860s, when Andrew Johnson was president, Congress did not like Andrew Johnson. So when a Supreme Court justice left, instead of letting him pick somebody to replace the Supreme Court justice, they reduced the number of justices from 9 to 8. And I believe they went from 8 to 7 after another one did it. And then as soon as Andrew Johnson left office, Congress voted to expand it back to 9 again. So you can create new judge positions, but you can also reduce the amount as well, if you think that's something you want to do. The other thing they can do is they can impeach a judge. Like I mentioned before in the impeachment video, Congress can impeach not only the president, but they can impeach judges as well. Actually, most of the time they have impeached judges. That's been the number one position to be impeached. Congress can also impeach each other, the members of Congress, but so judges are generally the ones that get impeached the most. I guess there's probably a more clear, like, wrong and wrongdoing for judges, taking bribes or something. That's probably why they've kind of been hit the most. Obviously, they have a pretty big number as well, like the number of judges. There's quite a few, so stands to reason they have the most cases of impeachment, I suppose. If you have any questions or comments on this, please feel free. Oh, actually, take that back. I've got a few other things. When the Congress makes a decision, when the Supreme Court or federal court makes a decision, there's not much Congress can do to overrule that decision. So I know I've heard people in the past say that they'll overrule the decision. They can't. You can't do that. The Supreme Court is the last ruling force. Kind of the federal courts have kind of the last say. Like, Congress really can't do that. Now, Congress can create new laws. Obviously, if the Supreme Court has ruled a law unconstitutional, a new law has to be somewhat different to satisfy whatever part of that law was unconstitutional. They got to make a subtle change. But they can create a new law to get to kind of where they want to go. So that is a potential possibility. The thing that's the most foolproof, but it's by far the most difficult to do, is they can just change the Constitution. So Congress can propose a new constitutional amendment. They did this in the early 1900s with income tax. Congress tried to place an income tax on people. And citizens sued and they said this is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court agreed and they said, you're right, this is unconstitutional. So Congress proposed a change to the Constitution, the 16th Amendment, that allowed for the government to tax people's income. It was passed. Hence, it's no longer unconstitutional. So we are now have to pay income tax to the government and the state government too. So that's twice as fun. So those are the things that you can do if you are Congress to kind of check that power of the federal court system. Kind of a big. Those are some pretty big powers, but the courts also have some pretty big power over Congress as well. So that's what makes this fun. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I will be around, so I'm sure there'll be another video to watch at some point. So hang in there. You guys have a good one.